The Midwest supporting, bruiser loving, positivity spreading, world's most dangerous podcast. Join former pro wrestler and promoter Dave Dynasty as he supports and promotes Midwest pro wrestling. Keep on growing with the Midwest Express. This is the Dave Dynasty Show.
Greetings and welcome to the Dave Dynasty Show. This is your host, Dave Dynasty, a.k.a. Downtown Dave, Delicious Dave, the blind boy of Indiana, the mouth of the Midwest, and Mr. Midwest. I am your conductor for this journey aboard the Midwest Express. We are glad you're here. All aboard. Let's move on out of the station. We got a great show for you today. We are going to have an interview with the fantastic Bobby Fulton as he approaches his final match of his career on May 26th. More information on that later in the show. Before we get to that, we have a couple things that I like to talk about. Last week, I went on a little bit of rant about, quote-unquote, what people are calling keyboard warriors, and people's opinions and judgments, etc., etc. It was very well received. People liked it that I spoke up a little bit. So I'm going to talk a little more today. How about that, right? So my topic today is, here we go. I'm going to unveil a nugget of wisdom for you all. A fact that maybe you don't know, but I'm going to lay it on you right here. So make sure you're sitting, make sure you're paying attention, quiet your surroundings, turn up the volume, pay very, very, very close attention to my voice, because here it comes. Ladies and gentlemen, pro wrestling is supposed to be fun. I know. Crazy idea, right? What is this we're talking about? This goes hand in hand with what I talked about last week. And don't get me wrong here. Don't equate fun for comedy in my view. Okay, because I'm not what you call a comedic wrestling fan. I don't like imaginary anythings or pretend anythings, etc., etc. That's not my thing. But again, I'm not a judgmental type. So my point being is this. If you watch professional wrestling strictly to cut it apart, to tear it apart, to cut it down, to critique it, to just insult it, then maybe you shouldn't watch, right? Or maybe you should watch something different. I've preached this for a long, long time. When you watch pro wrestling, it's supposed to be enjoyable. It's supposed to be fun. It is supposed to be an escape from life, from reality, from your responsibilities. It's supposed to be something that makes you feel good. If it doesn't, you're not watching the right wrestling, okay? There is 1,000,001 wrestling promotions out there, and they're all so easy to access nowadays. With the internet, with YouTube, with all the streaming services that are available, everybody out there can access thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours of professional wrestling. So if you're not enjoying what you're watching, don't watch it. Watch something else. Find what you do enjoy. And if that means you only watch classic wrestling, so be it. If that means you only watch independent wrestling, so be it. If that means you only watch Lucha Libre, Puro, whatever it may be, so be it. Watch what you enjoy. Watch what you find fun. And don't just watch something just to rag on it and to put it down and to throw your insults. Man, what a waste of time, right? I personally, there's lots of types of wrestling that I don't enjoy and that I don't like, and I just really don't watch them. And it's just that simple, because there's plenty out there that I do enjoy, and that's what I watch. Even sometimes when I watch particular wrestling shows or streams or whatever it might be, I don't even necessarily watch the entire program or the entire stream. There might even just be certain wrestlers or certain matches within that I like, and that's really what I focus on. That's, why doesn't everybody do this? Why is everybody so damn negative? I mean, why do we want to walk around and do that? I don't know. Whatever. But again, pro wrestling is supposed to be fun. Let's make it fun. There's plenty of good stuff out there, whether it's old, new, whatever it might be. Focus on that, man, and have a good time. Enjoy professional wrestling. Support the professional wrestling that you enjoy. and don't worry about the rest. Seems pretty simple to me. But let's, before we get to matters at hand today, I want to talk about a serious point. Those of you, not only in the Midwest, but all over the country, perhaps are knowledgeable or know an independent wrestler named Adam Bueller. He's from Indiana. He's from the Midwest. But he's traveled all over the country and done lots of things. He's a really, really good guy. Really goes out of his way to help people. And he's just a good guy, man. And he's really going through a tough time right now. He has lymphoma that he is battling. He is one of these victims of healthcare where he does not have coverage. He works. He has a child that he supports, but he doesn't have coverage, and he's facing lots and lots of bills. I urge you to please just go out, support Adam, give him a few bucks, and help him out. The guy deserves it. This is one of those things that I really harp on, is that us as a community need to rally together when one of our own needs us, and Adam needs us. So I made a tiny URL. Go to tinyurl.com/savebueller. It's BUELLER. And that'll take you straight to the GoFundMe for Adam. Just give a few bucks. Help him out. You'll be glad you did. He'll be glad you did. It'll be greatly appreciated and wisely used. I can guarantee it. I vouch for that. So let's all rally and help him out in this time of need. We're getting ready to take a break, and we're doing something a little different this week on the Dave Dynasty Show. Every once in a while, we are going to, I don't know how to put it. We're going to mention another podcast. It's kind of a goodwill thing that I'm doing with some guys where they're going to play an ad for my show. I'm going to play an ad for their show, just so we can maybe cross promote our audiences. And I urge you to at least give the guys that we plug a chance. Give them a listen. It's not going to be an all the time thing. We're just going to do it every so often. Again, kind of trying to unite the community of independent podcasting. And this week we have an ad from our friends at Eat, Sleep, Podcast, and Repeat. They will give you all the information in the ad coming up, but check them out if you're looking for a podcast. I believe they primarily discuss WWE, so if that's your thing, you're looking for something new to listen to, give them a listen. Here is their ad. We'll tell you all the information on how to access them. And following those messages, we will have the interview with one half of the Fantastics, Bobby Fulton, so stick around.
Ladies and gentlemen, and the rest of you jabronis, it's Sean and Dave here.
Did you grow up on WWE and refuse to grow out of it? We have the show for you, Eat, Sleep, Podcast, Repeat.
Courtesy of FM99 WNOR, we are a weekly wrestling podcast.
Join us as we go over WWE news, programming, superstar interviews, and discuss topics and questions from you, the listener.
Including some really god-awful celebrity impressions.
Not that bad.
They're really bad, Dave. Find us on FM99.com under the media tab and major podcast apps, including iTunes and SoundCloud. Just search ESPR.
And welcome back to the Dave Dynasty Show. We are joined today with a very special guest, the fantastic Bobby Fulton. Sir, how are you today?
I'm great, Dave, and I'm excited about being on your program. I've seen the list of names and people that you've had on, and I really like what you cover concerning professional wrestling, and especially that WWA, Dick the Bruiser, Wilbur Steiner stuff. I'm a big fan, and I'm excited about being on the program with you.
Well, we're excited to have you on, too. You fit right in because, like we said, we like to focus on the Midwest, and you are from Ohio, sir, so you fit right in. So
I'm a Buckeye.
That's right. So why don't you tell us, growing up in Ohio, what are your first memories of wrestling as a fan?
Well, probably when I was about 6 years old would have been in 1966. Maybe 5, 6 years old. I'll never forget walking in front of a television, and it would have been on Channel 6 out of Columbus, and there it was. It was like an orchestra, but it was wrestling. It was big-time wrestling, and they may have had a live program at that time. I don't know if it was taped or not, but I remember the sound of the hitting of the mat, the roar of the studio crowd that was there, the commentator talking, and the guys hitting each other, and the noises being made, and the interviews and stuff like that. To me, it was like the Philharmonic Symphony or some great symphony, and it hooked me there for the first time. And once I was hooked that first time, Dave, I was hooked for life, and I was excited,
Yeah, it wasn't, well, honestly, it wasn't too far after that you broke in. You broke in very young at about 16 years old, right?
16 years old, yes, sir. And I was getting ready to say, once I started watching it on television, I noticed up at a drugstore and in another little magazine store, they had the wrestling magazines. Mm-hmm. And I would go out there and read about guys and stuff like that. But, I broke in at 16 years of age. I started setting up the ring probably when I was about 13 years old with a group called, it was Roscoe Sports. Okay. His name was Hank Best, was a promoter. He was a promoter with Al Haft.
Right, okay.
I don't know if you've heard about Haft out of Columbus. And started setting the ring up for them.
Yeah. So then about 16, did you start wrestling for that group then, kind of after setting the ring up? And
Well, here's the deal, Dave, and this is the way it was. Just because I set the ring up didn't mean I was part of the show.
Right.
They wouldn't allow us in the dressing room. They never associated with each other. They came in as businessmen and conducted themselves like that. And one time there was a big snowstorm, I remember, and I almost got the referee, but they never talked out of school, if you understand what I'm telling you.
Right, yeah, of course.
They never talked that way, even though we were there. They never talked out of school. So what happened was I finally broke in. My first match was in Clarksburg, West Virginia. And because these guys really, when I broke in, they really didn't want you to break in the wrestling business. They discouraged it.
Right.
It wasn't like they were just taking every Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Yep.
Anybody who worked at wherever and, that wanted to be in it didn't mean you got to be in it.
Yep.
Just like Major League Baseball. I may have loved baseball and would have liked to have done it, but that didn't mean I was qualified. But after I broke in, I did wrestle for them a couple of times, and then I got hooked up with Flying Fred and Wild Bull Curry that was out of Columbus and had a company they were running, and then I started wrestling with them.
Right. So how did you come to be known as Bobby Fulton? How did that name develop?
Well, here's what happened. When I asked that guy that I set the ring up for, I said, listen, I've got a match. He probably was flipping, turning over, but he didn't let on. I said, I need to find out where to get boots and trunks and stuff from. Can you give me the place? And finally, reluctantly, he said, Carl and Hildegard. And I still have the same book that I had from 77 that I wrote down the name Bobby Fulton because I'm Jimmy Hines. And and I just thought, I don't know many people would want to buy a ticket to see Jimmy Hines. And Bobby Fulton just kind of seemed a little different, and Bobby is a young guy. And I wrote that name down, Dave, and that's how I became Bobby Fulton.
Yeah, well, it worked out pretty well for you.
Yes, it did. I was blessed. As a matter of fact, I one time I was wrestling in Louisiana, jumping ahead, and Buck Robley had said, "You're going to be Russ Jones here," and I thought, Russ Jones, nothing against Russ Jones, or if there's a Russ Jones listening, but I just said, that's not what I'm wanting to wrestle as, not Russ Jones, but it's Bobby Fulton.
Yeah. So, okay, so you worked around the Midwest. Was your first big move after that was when you went to Calgary?
Well, actually, I as soon as I graduated from school, high school, I went to Kentucky and wrestled for Dale Mann, and I met Eric Embry there. Okay. And Joe Cagle and Mike Dupree and guys like that. I'd go down there on Sundays while I was in high school and wrestle on Sundays in Georgetown. Mm-hmm. But I left home and went and wrestled there. I went for Nick Goulas and wrestled for Nick for a while. Me and Eric did. And then I eventually went to Calgary, Alberta, Canada, you're right, and wrestled for Stu Hart and got a chance to meet about a 10, 11-year-old Owen Hart. Bret Hart, of course, had broke in. Yes. Bruce and Keith and the Cuban Assassin, Angel Acevita, Bobby Bass, Goldie Rogers, and Hubert Gallant and Joe Ventura and Leo Burke. What a great talent they had there. And I got a chance to see Dynamite Kid in his prime, and he would wrestle Steve Wright in matches that were just unbelievable to watch. It was poetry in motion. Yeah. And I mean that with all of my heart.
Yeah, he was groundbreaking. I mean, unbelievable the stuff he was doing. So
he would go out and wrestle a 30-minute match, dive out on the floor with no padding.
I know.
He'd come back and do 1,000 Hindu squats after his match.
Yeah.
The guy was a machine.
Yeah, he was. That's right. So
Dynamite Kid.
Yeah. So when then after that did you start working that short time down in Knoxville?
Well, are you talking about Chattanooga?
Well, the only reason
Memphis?
I bring it up is when you met Terry Taylor and you started teaming with him.
Well, that was it. Here's what happened. We were wrestling in Memphis. Terry Taylor was there. I was there. The Fabulous Ones, all these guys was there.
Right.
There was a thing where Jerry Jarrett and Jerry Lawler was getting ready to break up and split the territory.
Right.
Memphis, that was.
Yep.
And he said, what happened, Jerry Jarrett must have got with Jim Barnett and Ole Anderson's Acidic crew that we did TV out of Chattanooga. And they put us together, Terry Taylor and I, as the Fantastic Ones there in that territory. And it was short-lived, about 6 weeks, actually, Dave. And we went and worked in Georgia because once Georgia Championship Wrestling started going to Ohio and Michigan, West Virginia, they didn't have to run Georgia. They were drawing all their money up there. I mean, it was prime area because the Sheik's territory had shut down in 1980.
Right.
So 81, 82, 83, wrestling's always been big up there.
Yeah.
And with the TBS station, man, it was just powerful.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't realize that the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, at one time was the strongest governing body in the business.
Yep.
Bar none.
Yep.
And I said, how times have changed, you know.
That's right. Yep. My week was schedule was pretty much set up as a kid by the 6:05 on Saturday night time. That was my.
That's right. That's right. It's great wrestling. There was nothing like that, and I think that still could go as far as a media type arena like that. And and because the thing of it is today, when you see Raw and you see SmackDown, and that you see the pay-per-view matches already, so that don't mean nothing.
Yep.
You see the WrestleMania matches already, so it don't mean nothing special.
Yeah.
But it gets a chance to build guys and get guys over by seeing them beat somebody with a figure four, or seeing them beat somebody with a claw hold, you know.
Yep.
And this and that, but the way it's done now, I just don't like it at all. But that's a whole nother kettle of fish.
Yeah. So was it around that time then, when you were around Memphis and Chattanooga? Is this around the time you met Jim Cornette?
I knew Jim Cornette when I came to Memphis. He was a photographer.
Yep.
And I would ride with him from Louisville to Evansville and his mother. And we would always go, speaking of fish, we always stopped at a little fish camp there in Clarksville. Yeah. And we would always have fish. And me and Jimmy would talk. And I told him, I said, Jimmy, as a matter of fact, he blames me. He said, you predicted I told him, I said, Jimmy, one day I want to be a guy that wrestles with a bow tie and has a hat and call myself Loverboy, because I always thought I was a lot better heel than I ever was a babyface, and still feel that today. And I said, Jimmy, you'll never be a wrestler, but you're going to be a booker. You're going to be a manager. And I was telling him, his mom was driving down the road, and I would tell him this and talk this. He said, Bobby, it all came to fruition, you know, and everything. He said, he sometimes he wants to strangle me over it with some of the stuff he's been through, you know.
Yeah.
But, me and Jimmy Cornette became friends, and then he broke into business. And in Chattanooga was his first full-time kind of territory where he got a break to be the top manager, because in Memphis, Jimmy Hart was the man, you know.
Yeah.
But Jimmy got to shine down there, and like I said, a short time. And then, of course, when they went back to Memphis, after a short time, they went down to Louisiana.
Yep.
The Midnight Express, a lot of people don't realize it was originally Norvell Austin, Randy Rose, and Dennis Condren.
Right, yep.
And they had worked in Alabama and this and that and everything. And then they came to Memphis, and Bill Watts said, I'll take that guy, Dennis Condren. I'll take beautiful Bobby Eaton, and you're not doing too much with that manager over there. And they all went together, and the rest is history.
Yep.
For the great matches.
Yeah, Norvell Austin's he's a name that's often lost. He was a great talent.
Yes. Tremendous.
Yeah.
And him and Coco made a great team, the PYT, the Pretty Young Thing.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people don't remember him, and he was a great talent. So,
and not only that, you just real quick, in mentioning Norvell, you had him with Sputnik Monroe, and they both had their bleach spot in their hair.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that back then, Dave.
I do. Yep, I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, you're on kind of on a sidetrack. When you're young and you're kind of working in the Midwest, did you encounter the Sheik when he was still running the area?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I had one time, Les Ruffin had called my house, and I don't know how he got my number because he had me mistaken for Jim Grandmeyer. Because he said, Jim, could you come work in Dayton at the Hare Arena tonight? And I said, yes, I can, or next week or whatever. And he said, can you work in Cincinnati on that whatever? I said, well, no, I got to go to a wedding. Well, when I got there, Les Ruffin said, and I was like 16 years old, wrestled Dayton Hare Arena. And he said, could you wrestle next week, Tuesday, in Cincinnati? I said, sir, I got a wedding to go to. He said, well, Jim Grandmeyer. Jim Grandmeyer, because, my real name's Jim.
Yeah.
I thought he just called me that. He said he's got a wedding to go to, too, and everything. But I wrestled there the first time. And then when I was in Tennessee wrestling for Nick Goulas, Eric Embry and I were wrestling his brothers, Bob and Don Fulton. Nick Goulas one day was at the office. He said, I want you boys to go over in La Quinta Hotel, to pick up the Sheik. And, brother, I was in hog heaven because I was a big Sheik fan. He rode with us the week. I went back home for a little bit, and I wrestled for him on some shows in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and Marietta, Ohio, and different places. Even went to Cobo Hall and wrestled and did a television where I wrestled Chief J. Strongbow and Dick Murdoch, and then they closed down not long after that,
Yeah.
And everything. But the Sheik was a classy guy. He was a nice guy. And, the guy drew big money all over the world.
That's right.
Was the hottest guy. And, even before the Internet, imagine the power that it took to be that kind of guy where the world knew him. You know what I mean? The Sheik, right?
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, let's jump back then, talk about Louisiana, because you wind up in Mid-South also. And is that where you met Tommy Rogers? Did you guys know each other before then?
I met Tommy Rogers in Memphis.
Okay.
When Jerry Lawler did that thing where he was going to start opposition.
Okay.
He had a crew booked in there, and Tommy was part of his crew.
Right.
And I was part of the crew for Jarrett. So we met each other for a short time there and talked. But then what happened after that was I had went to San Antonio where I wrestled Eric Embry in a big feud. Luke Williams was the booker, and Jonathan Boyd helped him, and Butch Miller for Joe Blanchard. And then what happened was Jerry Jarrett got mad at Bill Watts and said, well, you took all my talent. And Bill Watts said, well, what do you want? He said, well, I want the Rock and Roll Express back for at least 90 days till I can get something going on. So Bill Dundee was the booker, and Bill Watts, they needed somebody to fill in for 90 days. So I knew Bill because he helped me a lot, and he's like a father of mine in the wrestling business. And they'd seen Tommy Rogers wrestle on Georgia Championship Wrestling. He was, and Bill Watts they called Tommy, and they called me and said, hey, guys, we got a spot for you guys. Would you like to come in? I said, sure, we'll give it a shot. We came in as a 90-day replacement team. And, of course, Bill Dundee even says it in People, we worked hard to get over in that territory and then went on to world class and this and that. And it was no easy feat because of the Rock and Roll Express, but we would go to Houston. They had signs everywhere, bring back the rock and roll.
Yeah.
But as the time went on in them 90 days, their signs was coming down. Yeah. Ours was going up. The people liked us and they accepted us and everything. It was a great opportunity, and it was a great opportunity to team with Tommy Rogers, one of the greatest athletes in professional wrestling.
Yep.
He's phenomenal in the ring.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, and it didn't hurt you guys getting over that you had the Midnight Express and Jim Cornette that you started working with.
That's right. And I knew Bobby Eaton for years, Dennis Condrey and Jim Cornette, and we did the stuff there. They were already hot from beating them in that Rock and Roll Express, making them leave for 90 days, and they had wrestled the Bruise Brothers, who was Troy Graham and or Pork Chop Cash and Mad Dog, and then I think it was the PYTs that came in, and then we were there at the end and till the 90 days, and this and that, and you know what? I didn't even realize it was only for about three or so many months. Might have been 4 or 5 months. We was in and out of Louisiana couple of times, as a matter of fact. But I always enjoyed wrestling in that area. I love the style that Bill Watts promoted and the drive that he gave us. And I told him that recently when I seen him in New Orleans. I said, Bill, you pushed us all hard. And I said, but I respect you for it, and I appreciate it because it made us what we were. The strong work ethic. You know what I'm saying,
That's
Dave.
right. Yeah, I do. Well, again, eventually, when Bill changes over to the UWF, you're back in, and that's where is that where you started feuding with the Sheep Herders? You talked about Butch Williams and Luke Miller earlier.
That's right. Well, yes, we started feuding with them when it became the UWF, and they had the Crockett Cup, and that's when they had all the teams worldwide come in. I'm talking about teams from the AWA, all the major teams in the world was there at the Superdome in New Orleans, and even Giant Baba Tiger Mask and all these great teams. It finally came down to where we had beat the Fabulous Ones, we'd beat Tully and Arn, and the Sheep Herders was beating teams, and we got down to the semifinal, and we had a match. And everybody I've talked to, that always tells me that match that we finally had with the Sheep Herders stole the entire show of that first Crockett Cup.
Right, yeah.
And, I mean, that says a lot to me.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't say that being boisterous or bragging, but it was the hard work and the what we had there, and that tickles me because there was a guy from New York. He said he seen me standing over there, and he was used to real tall, big guys, right?
Yeah.
And he said, I'm looking over here at you. He just told me this probably a couple years ago, and he said, I'm thinking, man, what could this guy freaking do? And he said, man, you guys went out there and tore that place down. And that's what it was about back then.
Yep.
Dave, it wasn't about the heavy entrance and the strong exit, but it was what was done in the middle of the entrance and the exit that mattered.
Yep.
You wanted those people standing out there. You don't see that anymore in wrestling.
That's right.
Very rarely do you see people standing up out of their chair or making a noise.
Yep.
Not unless they're just chanting back and forth to each other or singing some kind of song. But if you watch the old matches from Dick the Bruiser to all these guys, I watch the crowd. I've always been that type of guy. I don't watch I do watch the match, but I'm really watching the crowd.
Right.
What's that crowd doing? Are they just sitting there on their hands? Are they standing up? Or that's the temperature taker for us.
Yep.
But you just don't see that anymore, and the guys don't know how to do that. It's like being a brain surgeon, and they forgot to teach you how to saw the head open.
Yeah.
You got to get in there and work on it some way, but how do I get there?
That's right.
I don't know how, and I mean, that's a kind of a crazy analogy, but I'm just saying that it's very true on all levels.
Yep.
From the bottom to the top, and everything. But like Jerry Lawler and them, Bill Dundee, and all these guys, and all these matches, and I mean the Von Erichsen, the people I've witnessed and seen. You have the people ready to fight, jumping in the ring. I mean, that's emotional.
Yep.
And when you have people with their emotions invested, then you have box office.
That's right.
And that's what it's all about,
That's right.
And everything.
Yeah. Well, it's speaking of, so as you go into the 90s, you and Tommy kind of split, and you start running shows on your own in Ohio. So what?
Yeah, what happened was George Scott became the booker at WCW, and Tommy went point blank and said, listen, do you have any plans for the Fantastics? And George Scott never really knew who we were. He said, no, I don't really. And Tommy said, well, then that's fine. I'm going to go home. And Tommy went home to try to put his marriage back together and started working, I think, at Coca-Cola or something like that. And I started running shows. And in the meantime, right about that same time, Jim Cornette and them started Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Right.
So the first Smoky Mountain Wrestling shows that you see on Smoky Mountain Wrestling were actually my shows that Jimmy brought in a production crew and videotaped to make it Smoky Mountain Wrestling. But, yes, you're right. I started running shows up in Ohio. Tommy and I started going to Japan. And I started wrestling a lot with my brother George Hines, which were Jimmy and George Hines from Chillicothe, but he's Jackie Fulton in the ring.
That's right.
And he was a tremendous partner too. He added height to our team, which me and Tommy, I think I was a little bit taller than Tommy, maybe, and my brother, those 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
So it added another dimension to the team,
Yeah.
in which we could have really went farther, and we had the opportunity to go to some organizations and was asked, but I always said no, out of respect to Tommy.
Yeah, right.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do, yeah. I mean, most fans here in America will know you guys with Smoky Mountain, you and Jackie. But Jackie he was a huge star in Japan. I mean, he was
a big star in Japan. He was over like $1 million. And like I said, they asked us to come to World Championship Wrestling and to wrestle full time. As a matter of fact, Jim Ross had asked us, but I would say no, and it was out of respect to Tommy, because I had that respect. Him and I, we were going to Japan, and my brother ended up going to Japan. And like you said, my brother is a great athlete, and he excelled over there. Got over as the Eagle with Dale Wilkes and the Patriot, and then later on as himself, George Hine.
Yep.
The crowd would chant, Georgie, Georgie, Georgie. So he did phenomenal.
Yeah. And
I'm proud of him.
Yeah, absolutely. And so tell us about, you did make just a one-off appearance in WWE in 97. And
well, here's what happened.
Wrestling Tommy, I think, right?
Yeah, well, here's what happened. I had a boxing business, and it wasn't oranges or anything, but what I was promoting was the toughest and baddest brawl. And Dave, I was doing very well.
Okay.
And I was still being able to wrestle independently. I hate that. I hate that phrase, independent, because it just trashes it. But I wrestled the opposition or outlaw. I hate the word independent.
Yeah.
When you say independent, it already puts you down a couple pegs.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
It's almost like saying amateur or something.
Yeah, it is. It's the same.
Yeah.
But people don't understand that, and you can't reason with them.
Yeah.
But what happened was I had a company, and I was doing really well. And Jim Cornette said, "Man, I'm trying to get Vince to do the junior heavyweights up here, but he's against it, because keep in mind, it had always been a big man territory."
Yep.
From the days of all of them,
Yep.
As a matter of fact, going back real quick in about '83, do you remember Eddie Gilbert was in there for a while, and he was like Bob Backlund, one of them's protege?
Yeah, I do.
Well, when he left, they wanted me to come there, but I didn't go. I went to San Antonio and stayed in San Antonio then. Just a little sidebar right there. They wanted me to go to work there, but I didn't want to. I never did. I never did care for big cities like that, traveling in New York City and all that big busy stuff and this and that. Just give me the South, or you know what I'm saying. But going back to the story, he asked me. I said, "Jimmy, here's the deal. I'll come one time. I'll wrestle, and I'll wrestle Tommy Rogers. He can look at two small guys wrestling, and being small, I'm not being insulted, but I'm talking about guys about 200 pounds.
Yep.
He can take a look, but that's it, Jimmy. I'm not interested in wrestling. I'm not interested in coming there, because I was doing too well at doing what I was doing. And here's what I didn't want to do, Dave. I didn't want to get there, shut down all the stuff I had, and Vince said, "Hey, man, well, you just can't find nothing for you right now."
Yep.
I didn't want that again.
Yep.
You understand? And
I do.
So I went for one shot and one show only, and that was it. Yep. I knew what was happening when that happened. And I did that show, on Raw.
Yeah.
And then later after that, the junior heavyweight thing and this and that went on.
Yeah. Well, one thing one thing that bugs me so much about WWE is now they own all these video libraries, so they control the history. They want to paint this picture a certain way. And you've kind of been outspoken about that and about the fact that they're not compensating guys that are on these
they're not.
These libraries. So
they're not.
How did that all come about where you realized, hey, I'm on these WWE DVDs. Where's my compensation?
When a guy said, Bobby, I bought your DVD down at Walmart. I said, you did what? He said, you're on DVD. And it's a WWE. And I said, huh? So I called their lawyer. I'd quit talking about this for a while, but I'm going to say it again. I called their attorney. I can't think of his name. If you mention his name, I'll know it. And I said, sir, I want to be a team player, and I want to be compensated. You guys are selling my likeness and my image.
Right.
He said, you understand. He said, we paid a lot of money for those libraries. I said, sir, but you paid the wrong people.
Yeah.
I said, I just went to Sam's and bought the trilogy to Clint Eastwood, The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, a couple other movies. I have the right to show them at my house, and I own that physical DVD, but I don't own the rights to that.
Yep.
And I said, and Vince McMahon doesn't own the rights to it either. He can show it on his office wall or in his mansion, but he hasn't compensated me for my intellectual rights or my likeness.
Right. Absolutely.
I said, you never had a paper. You never had nothing. I never signed nothing. He said, you're right. We don't have nothing signed. I said, you're right. Because I never signed nothing. I never signed a release. So Vince is such a big machine that he don't have to pay anybody.
Yep.
And then the guy got off on a tangent about all this other stuff about concussions and stuff like that, which is real and true.
Yep.
But how can you, and I'm not dogging my brothers, but how can you lay blame on Vince for all that when you wrestled in 100 different places?
Yep, that's right.
But now, I can tell him this. If you show my match from the Sportatorium in Dallas, I should be compensated for that. If you show my match from WCW, you know what I told that attorney? I said, brother, if I'm good enough to put on a DVD, then I should be good enough to be paid. If not, cut it all up, my image and my likeness, and throw it in the trash.
That's right. Yeah.
That's it. Yep. Hey, I'm saying it, and it's true.
Yep.
But the argument is, it's not about this or that, about injury, but it's about likeness.
That's right.
And about likeness and about my intellectual property.
Yep.
You see, back then, it was like this, Dave. When I wrestled in Dallas, Texas, on my match, and I came back and I said, you know what, I'll tell you right now, Dave, when I get down to Fort Worth next Monday night, Tommy Rogers and I, we're going to be in that ring, Jim Cornette, that wimp that he is. He's got the Midnight Express, but we got the fans on our side. When we come in there to the Will Rogers Coliseum, we're coming for one thing, Dave. That's them tag team belts, because that's what means so much to us, and it's not that we're going to win them. It's going to be the fans that wins them, and the great fans in Texas, Oklahoma, all over that's viewing this. Now, we make a promise that on Monday night, we're going to beat the Midnight Express once and for all. Jim Cornette, you stick your nose in, we're going to chop it off. Now, listen. My whole match, my interview was an infomercial.
Yep.
So those was infomercials, meaning that I knew when it was played, then I was paid.
That's right. Yep.
So whenever anything is shown, then it should be followed up with payment. And that's
right.
it. You know what? Come May the 26th, I'm retiring.
That's right.
And I'm going to leave it all behind.
Yep.
And yeah, Vince McMahon, He's a billionaire, fine. Do I like what he's done to the wrestling business? No, but it's not just his fault, but it's a lot of people's faults what's happened to it, especially, and I'll get on a tangent here real quick, with these so-called backyard wrestlers and people like that ain't even got a clue about what our business is or what it was, and they're out here making chicken crap out of it when and ruining it for everybody.
Yep.
And, you know, everybody wants to point their finger at Vince McMahon, but I blame all those bottom feeders, and there's thousands of them all throughout this country and worldwide that are not professional wrestlers. That's why they call themselves, Dave, workers.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not professional wrestlers, brother. I never was a sports entertainer, but I prided myself on being a professional wrestler my whole career.
Yep.
And on May the 26th in Circleville, I'm going to be a professional wrestler for one last time.
That's right.
And it's going to be it. I was talking to a friend of mine earlier, and I'll never forget my mom and dad. They, you know, I was 15, 16. My mom said, he's going to come home in a wheelchair. I'm going to throw him over there in that creek. I'm so upset. My dad said, Nance, it's a phase he's going through. He's going to go through it. Well, my mom and dad's gone. God rest their souls. And I still had that phase, but May the 26th, the phase is gone.
Yep.
And I've done all I can. I've sacrificed because I love the wrestling business, and Dave, you do too. You're passionate about it, or you wouldn't do this.
That's right.
anytime you take time out of your life for something, then that means you have a passion for it, or you wouldn't do it.
Absolutely.
And it's the same thing with wrestling. Not only am I a professional wrestler and a promoter and have trained guys, but also I'm a fan of the wrestling business.
Yep.
And I can't tell you how much I enjoy watching matches. Well, I've said this. I remember when MMA first started, and Ivan Koloff and I had a school in North Carolina, and guys was leaving our school going to Japan wrestling for Inoki in these first MMA matches.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then, but I watched Buddy Rogers and I watched Luke Diaz out of Chicago in 1951, and I said, that's really where the first MMA match was.
Yep.
Right then and there. If you'll watch that match, it's the only thing they don't have on is the black gloves and are barefooted.
That's right.
But those guys went at it, man. They took pride in their business, and, I get off on tangents here and there, but it's okay. So does a lot of guys.
Yeah.
And I just want people to respect and love the wrestling business that's in it. It's not a hobby, it's a passion.
Yep.
And you can make a lot of money in it if you put forth an effort.
Yep.
But just because I love baseball doesn't make me a Major League Baseball player, Dave.
That's right. I think you hit it on the head. It needs to get back to maybe we need to protect the business a little more and who's involved.
We got to protect it a lot more.
Yep, that's right.
I don't know how. And I'll tell you, one of the worst things out here is wrestling schools.
Oh,
because they're being trained on a watered down version of what wrestling really is. Unless look here, how can you train somebody when you've never left the county?
Yep, that's right.
And when the guy that you have wrestled, the guys that you have wrestled is a short list that have only wrestled in that area and for a short time.
Yep.
But you go to somebody, say for example, I'll give just go to somebody that's been around, that's done it, and is a proven commodity. That should be your mentor.
That's right. Yep, absolutely.
And there's that goes. But you know how it is, brother.
Yeah, that's right.
Sometimes but you got to tell it like it is.
That's right. Absolutely. So you mentioned
one of my mentors.
Sorry, no, go ahead. What are your mentors?
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was circling back to the May 26th. You talked about it, in Circleville, Ohio. It's your final match, and it's kind of appropriate. I think you're wrapping it up with in the ring with a Curry. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Nick Kid Curry. He is a Naga and champion and a gold medalist. That is serious business as far as amateur fighting. And the guy's a machine. He's in shape. And it's ironic that it's in the same building that I first met Dr. Jerry Graham, Wild Bull Curry, and Flying Fred Curry when I was about 16, 17 years old.
That is amazing.
And a lot of people had thought maybe it might be this guy or that guy or whatever, but it's time to give back and to reach back.
Yep.
And Flying Fred Curry was a mentor of mine, and I'm going to step in the ring with his 21-year-old son, who's a machine. I'm a 57-year-old beat-up man, but listen to me. I've got 40 years. I've got 40 years of knowledge. I remember wrestling Sting and Ultimate Warrior when they first started. And they were big dudes, and me and Tommy would sit on their chest because they were worn out and they couldn't even move those big muscles.
That's right.
And we would twist their ears and their nose and make fun of them and laugh at them. And the thing of it is, on May the 26th, it's not going to be no laughing matter. It's going to be serious business. Because if he's got something to prove to his father, that he can beat Bobby Fulton, I have something to prove to Fred Curry that I still have what he showed me many, many years ago.
Yeah.
And that I will be the man that night. I didn't choose anyone that was going to be a pushover.
Right.
But I wanted someone, number one, healthy, someone young, and someone hungry. And I'll tell you the truth, Dave. I'm not going to lie to anybody. I'm pretty beat up. Mm-hmm. I told somebody the other day, at my shows, it kind of bothers me. If I set the ring up, I don't feel much like wrestling.
Yep.
And they said, Bobby, not many guys are wrestling at 57. And number two, not many guys that's been around the world and done all you've done bother setting the ring up.
That's true, yeah. And it kind of brings your career full circle, doesn't it? Because this will be your third generation of Curry that you faced in the ring, correct? I mean, you were
yes.
It's kind of poetic in a way, and
it is. If people understand the story, and Not only that, but I got Superstar Bill Dundee's going to be there. Jim Lancaster, who wrestled there with the Flying Fred Curry group. It's kind of like I said, if I had two people, like Flying Fred Curry was a big mentor of mine, and Superstar Bill Dundee was a big mentor of mine. And then, of course, Jim Cornette's going to be there, and we all know what Jim Cornette means to me. And he's made it known, and this and that. We respect each other highly. We love the professional wrestling business, and this and that, and everything. He's going to be there. Beautiful Bobby. We talked about baseball earlier. Even Al Oliver Scoop is going to be there during the Fan Fest. And, I mean, this guy is right in the company of Roberto Clemente, of Willie Stargell, of that 71 Pittsburgh Pirates team. Yeah. And speaking of Pittsburgh and the Pirates, we've also got Shane Douglas is going to be in action that night, taking and this and that. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but there's so many things. We've already announced one of the matches, which is Abyss and the Barbarian and Monsters Balls match. Yeah. But I'm telling you right now, it's going to be one of the biggest nights. And, Dave, the great thing about this is I had a program from this arena, and I look back in the Circleville Herald on newspaper, that newspaper.com.
Right.
They had wrestling. Buddy Rogers and them wrestled in this building. They wrestled in this building to build the grandstand that sits behind it as the fundraisers and stuff like that. So this building has a lot of history. It has a great atmosphere. And when you come to that arena, you just go, it's almost like the Sportatorium was. There was an atmosphere. I'm talking about the one in Texas.
Yep.
There was an atmosphere in that arena that was special. But, I mean, we had a chance to see that like at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis and then the Omni it was in Atlanta, and so many of the other arenas that are long gone, and this one will be tore down too. Yep. And so it's going to be the last wrestling event. So a lot of last things taking place there, Dave. And all roads, I tell everybody, all roads lead to Circleville, Ohio. On May the 26th, there's going to be a fan fest that day. Yep. There's going to be a big wrestling show that night. Everybody's fired up and excited about it, the ones participating. And Fred Curry in his interview, I don't know if you've heard that yet.
I did,
but he said he wrestled at the Madison Square Gardens, that the Cobo Hall in Detroit, the HIC building in Honolulu, Hawaii. I mean, and he said he is more pumped up. He told me he wakes up at 3 a.m. thinking about May the 26th. He was so fired up and excited about it. And he's going to be doing a seminar there for professional wrestlers.
That's right.
And everything. So the guys are going to get a chance to pick his brain and pick his mind. And, I mean, and I noticed somebody has said, well, Fred Curry, who's he? I'm going to tell you something. They don't have to look far to find out just exactly who that man, who his father was. Fred Curry in the 70s was one of the biggest baby faces in the country. Yep. Going to Cow Palace in San Francisco, in Japan, all over the world, this guy was a hot commodity. That's right. And he was born, like I said, in the wrestling business, and he's excited about his son. But if he thinks for 1 second that his son is going to have it easy, then he is thinking the wrong thing. Because you see, I've got something not only prove to Fred Curry and to myself, but I've got something to prove to my hometown crowd that's going to come out. People that's never been to a wrestling match is going to come out that night because they realize that it's Bobby Fulton's last match ever, Jimmy Hines' last match ever, after 40 years of wrestling. And a dream of mine, as a matter of fact, my Little League ball coach, he said, Jimmy, I use you as an example all the time because I asked you when you was 9 years old, what do you want to do when you grow up? I said, I want to be a professional wrestler. I want to travel the world. And he said, I went to tell the other kids that I taught later on in Little League and in school sports and all kinds of things, that if you have a dream, you can achieve it. Jimmy Hines told me when he was 9 years old what he wanted to do, and he set out to do it, and he made it. And I praise God, Dave, for the ability and for all that God has blessed me with. It's beyond imagination. If I would have told you at 9 that I would have went as far as I did, I couldn't imagine how God has blessed me with such a wonderful career and a wonderful life, to meet so many great people, to wrestle in so many great places. and to have the time of my life. I am truly blessed.
Absolutely.
And highly favored of the Lord. I got to say that, Dave.
Absolutely, of course. And so they can look you guys up on Facebook. It's a mouthful. What is it? It's World.
Brother, you know what? You know what the deal is. Here it is. It's World Classic because they're professional big-time wrestling.
That's right.
World Classic professional big-time wrestling. Listen, so many times you look at wrestling posters today, you don't even know what it is, but it's World Classic professional big-time wrestling. It is a mouthful. Bob Orton Jr. said that too. The Raven and everybody said, "My goodness, World Classic professional big-time wrestling." Yes, it is, and it's a mouthful. And the reason why you say it a long time because every event we do is action-packed from go to woe.
That's right.
People are excited. They're standing on their feet. They're cheering and stomping because the good guys is whipping up on the bad guys, and sometimes the bad guys are whipping up on the good guys. But one thing is for certain, it's action-packed. Yeah, baby, personified.
That's right.
Macho Man used to say, brother. And we're going to have a great time in the town of Circleville, Ohio. All roads lead to it, Dave. I am fired up. I am pumped. I told people this. As Toby Keith's song said, I might not be as good as I once was, but on May the 26th, brother, Kid Curry, Flying Fred Curry, I'm going to be as good as I ever was. And now I'm going to tell you something, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget when I was 17 years old and Bull Curry, he had fists like hams would hit me. I knew I was hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got some payback on Nick Curry.
That's right.
So if it comes down to having to exchange some blows, then that's fine too. But one thing about it is, Nick Curry, you better be ready for the ride of your life, brother, because I'm going to give it to you. May the 26th, Circleville World Class Professional Big Time Wrestling Super Fan Fest, Super Wrestling Show. It's going to be awesome.
That's right. We'll put a link in the show notes so people can easily click on that to go. There's a link there on Facebook to get tickets. I'll be there. I've already bought me and Ike have already bought our tickets. We're planning to be there.
I hear you.
So yeah,
I hear you. And you know one more thing I was going to tell you we're going to do.
Yeah.
That no other fan fest has done. We're going to choose from some of the ticket holders, and we're going to take them down in the dressing room. And here's what we're going to do. Down in these dressing rooms, and we're going to talk about the different locker rooms and the different things that went on. And I'm just talking about some behind-the-scenes stuff.
Yeah.
So they'll get a feel of what it was like being in the dressing room, something just a little bit different, and talk about, I'll never forget sitting over there and I seen Dick Murdoch and this happened and that happened, and just different little road stories and things like that. I mean, I know they've heard some of the stuff, but it's going to be just a quaint group of people, whether it's 10 or 15. I don't know how many they're going to bring in. They've got Mass Superstar going to do it. I think Dylan told me, and Ronnie Garvin, myself, and somebody else. But it's just going to be something just a little bit different. And I hope it should shed some lights on some of the things. A lot of people don't realize it. Now, listen, Dave, one night we might be in the Superdome in New Orleans, and the next night we might be in a skating rink in somewhere in Louisiana.
That's
and
right.
I mean, that's just the way it was. We were in major arenas, and then we were in small buildings, and it made up the territories that we wrestled in 7 to 8, sometimes 9 times a week, So I'm just excited about this event. I look forward to seeing all the great wrestling fans, friends, meeting you face-to-face, Dave. You keep doing what you do.
I will. Thank you.
I appreciate it, brother. God bless you, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. Again, that's May 26th, Circleville, Ohio. Make sure you're there. Bobby Fulton, world-class, big-time professional wrestling. Do not miss it. Fan Fest and Show. Bobby Fulton, thank you for coming on. Have a good night, sir.
God bless you, brother.
Whatever happened to you?
And we're back with Whatever Happened To, the segment where we catch up on some often overlooked names from Midwest Wrestling's past. I am Mike Isaacs, and today we're chatting with Phoenix. His real name is Jason Free. Did I say that right?
You said it right, yeah. So many people say, well, how do you spell that? Well, it's F-R-E-E. People try to think it's fancy, like, oh, is it F-R-E-A-H? No, it's free.
Just free. Free's good.
Yep.
Free is always good.
And I've heard them all.
Right. Well, I'll try and come up with a couple more little zingers while we're talking here.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
But so
hopefully I'll hear a new one I haven't heard before. So
hopefully that's my goal for this interview is to come up with a little pun on the last name you've not heard. But we'll jump right into it. Question as always: tell us how you got started in wrestling.
Yeah, I was in high school. I was just old and was a huge wrestling fan growing up as a kid. Of course, back in the 80s, early 90s, I had Hulk Hogan plastered all over my bedroom wall. He was really like my first hero, besides like comic book guys like Spider-Man, Superman. The wrestling guys were just like real life superheroes to me. They wore the outfits, they looked like the comic book guys with all the muscles. And when I went to my first pro wrestling show, my mom took me for my birthday one year. I think I was like 12 years old, and it was at Market Square Arena, which is no longer around. And it was a WWF event back then. And I remember it was the main event was Hulk Hogan and the Junkyard Dog versus the Funk Brothers. I was hooked. I was like, that's what I want to do. And I was a little scrawny kid. And I remember that same year my mom got me the Hulkamania Workout Set. And it had like a cassette tape with the Hulkster pumping you up and playing music. And I had the little 3-pound blue sand weights and a jump rope and a headband. And I had bunk beds in my room. And I'd have my friends come over and stay the night. And we would jump off the bunk beds as a top rope, and we put the mattresses, of course, down on the ground. And I used to hear my mom, "Hey, settle down in there." So, yeah, I was just obsessed with pro wrestling. And as I got into high school, I began lifting weights, and I really wanted to make that dream a reality. But of course, how do you do that? Where do I go to get trained? And back then it was still, nowadays, the kayfabe was, it's a thing. People know, wrestling's a work and it's very open, but it's super awesome entertainment. But back then it was still very, very, well-protected business. And a guy in my high school, I went to Greenfield Central, and there's a kid in my class that said, "Hey, my uncle is a pro wrestler. His name is Diamond Dan Garza." And I was like, wow. And they have a ring set up in Martinsville, Indiana, and they train down there. And I can give you his number if you're interested. I'm like, heck yeah. So, of course, I call Dan. I'm completely marking out. And I was telling him my whole plan of action. That I was going to be the next light heavyweight champion in WCW. I was going to beat Brian Pillman and all these guys. And, of course, Dan chuckled and, oh, yeah, we'll get to that part later. And I set up an appointment with him, and me and a friend of mine, he was a power lifter, his name was Mike Johnson. We went and met Dan down at this ring. And the guys like Quicksilver was there, and a couple other guys I can't remember, but I was just in awe when I saw the ring. I got to touch the ropes and feel the mat for the first time. And, of course, when I get in there, I'm like maybe $160. And I'm just flying all over the ring thinking I'm just ready to go. And they kind of put me in my place really quick. They gave me a couple of, pretty stiff shots in the chest, some forearms and some chops, I think, just to kind of calm me down and say, okay. But I progressed pretty quickly and found an ad. I think my mom actually told me about, she was living in California at the time. My mom went to California when I was in middle school, and I stayed behind to live with my grandparents so I could finish high school here in Indiana. My mom had said, hey, I found this ad in the paper about a wrestling school in San Bernardino. Okay. It was called the School of Hard Knocks, and you might want to come and check it out if you really want to take this serious. So I'm like, well, heck yeah, California, it's a much bigger place than Indiana. So what a great launching pad to be able to go to California after high school and live with my mom. And the School of Hard Knocks was ran by Bill Anderson, who trained with Red Bastien, the Ultimate Warrior, and Sting.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of guys from Japan, and Lucha Libre was still kind of underground. It was pretty popular in Southern California, of course, Tijuana, but not quite, getting there mainstream. I remember the Blue Blazer, which was Owen Hart. He came on in the early 90s, and I was just immersed with him because he was doing all these lucha moves, and I was a smaller guy, and I kind of gravitate towards that. So I went to California and started training out there in San Bernardino, and really, really progressed. And my very first match, I went as Jammin' Jason Young. And everybody said I looked like a little mini Shawn Michaels, so I kind of took to that gimmick. And it was a TV taping in Oakland, California. My first match was a live TV taping. It's crazy. And I went against this Russian guy, Boris. His name was Boris Karloff or something like that. And, of course, he beat me. He cheated. But, for them to fly me on a plane from Southern California, San Bernardino County, all the way up to Oakland, put me up in a hotel, and, my first match was on TV, and I still got that on VHS, actually. So it just made it, super motivating for me to continue. And I was in California for about a year and really started gravitating towards the lucha style of wrestling, and went and did a lot of shows in Tijuana, actually. They called me Apollo Atlas in Tijuana. And I actually wrestled with Rey Mysterio Sr., the original Rey Mysterio. It was Rey Mysterio Jr.'s uncle.
Okay.
And he's the one that gave me that name, taught me a lot down there, and did a lot of shows. I was the only white kid on the show because it was mainly, Hispanic audience. And so, of course, I went out there in the jean jacket and the spandex, the rockers kind of thing. I had a mullet, bleach blonde hair, the whole look. And, of course, I look back at some of these pictures and what in the world was I thinking? But, and so, I was really over down at Tijuana. And then I had a shot to go to Japan, but I came back to Indiana to visit family, and I met a girl, and I decided to stay back in Indy. But I started doing some shows, and I started really getting into bodybuilding and wanted to progress in that area as well. And I was doing wrestling on the side. We did a show at the Murat Theater one year. This was in the mid-'90s. And I did a backflip off the top rope. When I came down, I tore my ACL. It was crazy. It was super painful. The match lasted 2 minutes. I did in the beginning of the first spot, and it was awful. And it was the worst pain I ever experienced. So that took me out of wrestling for a few years. I decided to make a big comeback, and I started going as the Phoenix, and then started looking like people started calling me a mini Sting because my hair was shorter, still blonde, but I had bright yellow and red and had the face paint. I sent Dave a couple of pictures. I don't know if you saw those as well. And started doing shows for OVW, down in Cincinnati area, all over Indy, Ohio. And it was becoming a thing, and it was causing some issues with my then ex-wife and family. And so I had a full-time job, and I started taking wrestling a little too serious again. It was taking me away from, taking the focus away from, paying bills and doing the job thing. I had got another invite to go to Japan, and unfortunately I turned it down. I wish I would have went because that would have been one heck of a ride. But so I think my last match officially was in 2005. Yeah, 13 years ago. And just kind of called it quits from there.
That was 13 years ago, wasn't it? That's crazy. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy. 13 years ago was my last match, and that was, I can't remember, somewhere in Indiana. It might have been Columbus or somewhere in southern Indiana. I can't remember even who it was for.
Okay.
And, but yeah, so I guess unofficially retired then because I haven't been back since. I've always, with wrestling, as a lot of your listeners probably know, and once you do it, it's in your blood. It's always going to be in your blood, and you kind of crave, getting up in the ring again and hearing the fans and the camaraderie with the guys in the locker room and stuff. It was a great time. So I've always, people always ask me all the time, hey, you gonna jump back in the ring? You should jump back in the ring. Do one more match. And I'm remarried now. We're very happily married. I met the girl of my dreams about 3 years ago. We just celebrated our 3-year wedding anniversary last week. And I work in the vitamin industry and getting ready to launch my own private brand of pre-workouts focusing on yoga. I started practicing yoga. So I'm kind of like a mini DDP now. So I went from Shawn Michaels, his team, to Diamond Dallas. Diamond Dallas does the yoga thing. So I got into yoga a few years ago. Absolutely love it. And so developing a supplement line for the yoga practitioner. There's a lot of pre-workouts and proteins and vitamins for people that work out with weight, but we found that there's not a whole lot out there for people who practice yoga. So that's been like my focus this past year, trying to get that product launched and just do life. There's always that chance I might jump back in there one more time, but I'm just turned 44, and the body doesn't quite look as good and feel as good as when I was in my 20s and 30s. So, but you never know.
Right. Yeah, it's actually funny. Well, first of all, that was like, I don't know if you've ever seen the video. It's like the history of the world in 10 minutes. That was like the history. That was the history of the Phoenix in 10 minutes. So that was incredible.
Yeah.
But
well, I appreciate that. I could probably talk for 20 minutes, but I try to keep it short.
Hey, that's absolutely okay. So I mean, a couple things, because I caught a couple things that kind of piqued my curiosity, if you will.
Yeah.
So I mean, first of all, the fact that you got so many offers to go out of the country, like to go to Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, that must have been an incredible experience. I guess something I would ask you, because it's kind of along the same lines of what you've already said, but like if someone came up to you today and said, hey, if you reinvigorate your role as a wrestler, I want you to come to Japan, would you take that offer?
Boy, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? It'd be something I'd definitely really, really consider and think about. Obviously, with my current stage in life, with my career, with my marriage, we just bought a house. I've got a little girl now. She's getting ready to move to Tennessee, but she's with me during the summers. My product line I'm getting ready to launch. By the way, cheap plug here. It's called Yoga Pre-Flow. It's a pre-workout for yoga people by Bonda Blends. That's the company. Anyway, come back to that question. There's so much going on. And life is so good, and I know a lot of, former wrestlers, current wrestlers. In fact, we get wrestlers coming in the vitamin shop. That's where I work now. I'm a manager at the vitamin shop in Greenwood, Indiana. And people tend to just, they think that's like their identity. And I was so engrossed with wrestling, and that was what I felt like I was making a difference. That was like my identity. And I felt like there was so much more to life that I needed to experience. And, I have a faith in God as well. And, sometimes, you have a plan and a direction in your life, but the good Lord will say, well, no, I don't want you doing that. I want you to do this instead. So I think that's kind of what happened, because there were so many times I put my foot back in the water, I guess I could say, back in the ring, and something would happen. It would be an injury, something would get in the way, something would pull me away. Because I had so many offers like you said, to go to Japan. I've had 2 offers to go to Japan, offers to go and work down in Mexico full time. At one point, I could, it's one of those things. Could I have made it in the WWE? Especially, when you get to the late '90s, early 2000s, when the lighter guys were getting just as much attention. I mean, you have guys, like I said, Rey Mysterio Jr. and all these, of course, WCW at the time, Monday Night Nitro, they had light heavyweight division, it's one of those things, like, I hope I don't regret some of the decisions I made, because I think I really could have made an impact in the wrestling world. Yeah. But, at my age, at 44, that's a good question. It's a good question. I don't know.
See, the best questions in life are the ones that you can't answer. That's what
that
I
is. That's why it was such a good question. It's like, man, because you get people asking you all the time, oh, there's a show here and there, and there's a guy named, I know, Josh Lewis. I don't know if you know Josh. He works in the NWA, I think. Okay. We train at the same gym. I train at Premier Fitness here on the south side of Indy, and he comes in the vitamin shop, once or twice a month. And he's like, man, I can get you some TV tapings, and we got this thing and this thing, and got these shows. I'm like, gosh, I know, man. Of course, I talked to my wife about it. She's like, yeah, honey, you could do it. Do whatever you want. I'll support you. Just don't get hurt.
And that's when you're just like, I don't know if I can guarantee that or not.
Right, because, I've been hurt before.
That's absolutely true. So I guess, a little step in a different direction, because, that's the ultimate question. Because like you said, I don't think you ever really retire from wrestling. From what I hear, I'm not, I've never stepped in the ring in that capacity myself. But from every person I've talked to, people who are, wrestled back in the Bruiser era, every single one of them say you never retire. There's always a part of you that was always pulling you back.
There is.
So
you could be flipping through the channels, or now with social media, you see a spot, and you're like, and it makes you just stop. Most people are like, but unless you're a wrestling fan, but if you actually have done that, been in front of that crowd, and somebody comes up to you and asks you for your autograph, that's a huge, ego boost, and you probably feel, especially local, or, I don't want to say amateur, because these guys are professionals, whether they're, wrestling in front of 50 people or 500 people or 50,000 people at WrestleMania. They go through the training. It takes a lot, when you get somebody to come up and ask you for your autograph, no matter what level it is, or you get, the spotlight put on you and people are cheering for you, or, if you're playing the heel, if they're booing for you, you're getting that crowd reaction, whatever it is. It's a rush. It's like a drug. And it's hard to step away from that. I find myself many times, when you're driving in your car, when you're laying in bed at night, just kind of fantasizing that feeling, and what if I could just do it one more time? And I thought, well, there's so many other things that I feel in life that were just kind of pulling me away and pointing me to a different direction. So you say, yeah, do I have regrets? Sometimes. But sometimes I'm like, well, it would be nice to jump back in there one more time, or a few more times, maybe on the side to get that feeling again. And, people, it's an entertainment business, so you get to impact people too, because they get it. It's an escape, just like going to the movies or going to a rock concert or whatever you're doing. People go there to be entertained, and you see the reaction either on a kid's face or, somebody's either booing you or cheering you, but you're getting that reaction. And so they're having a great time, and you're feeding off that, and you're having a great time too. So it is always going to be a part of you, whether I step back in the ring or not. It was definitely an awesome time in my life that I thoroughly enjoyed.
No, absolutely. and I would expect nothing else. I mean, you do that for so long, it's hard not to be able to look back on it and at least have a little bit of a smile, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I look back at pictures. I showed my wife our first year we were married. Of course, when you meet somebody and you kind of talk about where you're from, what you've done with your life, especially when you get married later in life. I would tell her about my wrestling days, and I ended up finding in a box of storage stuff some VHS tapes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen these in years. So I told my wife, Jamie, I said, hey, I found some old wrestling videos of me. You want to check it out? She's like, yeah, I think I've got a VCR in the garage somewhere. Sure enough, she pulled it out. It worked, and we were just cracking up. It was almost like was that really me? You see yourself doing all these crazy things, and it'll always be a part of you, whether I decide to go back into it or just do one more match or whatnot. But I find myself these past so many years that I like watching documentaries. I love The Rock. I love Stone Cold. I love this guy. I like watching documentaries. But as far as watching wrestling on a consistent basis, Monday night and stuff, I haven't, because it's kind of a love-hate thing. It's kind of like, if I watch it, it's like, I could be doing that right now. That could be me. And then I was like, I got to step away. Then you start feeling kind of like that regret, like, I make the right decision because I could have been in the WWE. I think I could have done that. I really think I could have. But, life goes on.
I understand. But, so, like, I guess to kind of put the train back on a different little track here, we talked a lot about, your career, what happened after your career, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'm curious. You said like the wrestling these days is a love-hate relationship, but what are your opinions about the modern wrestling style? I mean, not to say that the style was so much different when you wrestled, because you were kind of in that sweet spot in the 90s and, like you said, early 2000s, where it was kind of integrated from the old style, kind of breaching that mid-ground of what you're seeing today. So
the Attitude Era.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Which I think is one of the best eras in pro wrestling when I look back. I think, I know a few guys, out like you got the Roman Reigns and I think then the Undertaker come back again. WrestleMania a few weeks ago. And he's a good example, right? I mean, the guy is so over. Probably one of the top 3 all-time well-known greatest pro wrestlers of all time, and he's got to be 60.
Yeah.
he's still coming back because it's a drug, man. You get lured back in. But to me, the wrestling now, and I don't know if it's because when the WWE took over WCW years ago, I think. They had a ride there for a while, but I think in recent years, there's not a lot of competition for the WWE. I know you got TNA, I think it's still out there, and, some of these small, I know NWA is trying to make maybe a little comeback, trying to come back with old original. The guy from Smashing Pumpkins, what's his name? I think he owns that now, right? Billy Corbin?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Smashing Pumpkins lead singer owns the NWA, and I think he's trying to kind of bring a resurgence back of the old National Wrestling Alliance, and they do some shows and some TV tapings. But without anybody competing with the WWE, I think it's kind of lost a little bit of the luster, I think. When I turn it on, it's like there's nobody out there that's like, for me, really captures my attention that are huge, superstars. You got guys like, The Rock, Ric Flair and Stone Cold, and I was a huge Bret Hart fan. And you just don't see a lot of we know what I hate. This is what I hate. That I think is when you see guys in cut-off shirts and shorts, and combat boots. There's so many guys that when you turn on pro wrestling, for me, like I said in the beginning, they were like comic book superheroes in real life. They were just beyond the norm. And I don't like seeing just normal guys get up there and just like somebody that comes off the street that could, they're good workers. But, I miss the over-the-top gimmicks. For me, that was superheroes come to life. Bring back, the bright spandex and the face paint and the personalities. I think it's currently the state of wrestling is just kind of dry.
Yeah.
And again, I don't watch it like I used to. It's been many, many, many months since I've even, turned on Monday night or watched anything. I find myself every once in a while pulling up YouTube videos of, like, the Ultimo Dragon or, some Owen Hart stuff or,
Ultimo
Shawn
Dragon.
Michaels, Ultimo Dragon. Oh, I used to study that guy. I did that was my signature move, was the, coming off the ropes, jumping into the middle rope and doing that backflip like a moonsault onto the guy. I perfected that. I probably have some videos, so I'll be doing that. But, so I stole shamelessly from all these guys, Owen Hart and Ultimo Dragon and Rey Mysterio Jr. and even his name escaping me. He's huge. My goodness. Y2K. What? I kind of remember his name.
Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho was huge for me. I love that guy when he had this long hair.
You don't like Fozzy? the Fozzy Jericho?
Yeah. Well, he's got a decent rock voice. I kind of like. I've previewed some of those songs on iTunes, and it's decent. It's decent. But and he's a yoga guy. He's doing yoga these days, I hear. But
he sticks
I
in
like
there
those
from time
huge,
to time.
over-the-top personalities and excitement. But
Yeah, I think that is something I do agree with that, though. I mean, if you look at the current setting of wrestling, you're obviously no what's the word I'm looking for? No beef with these guys, but you said like, oh, they just get in there with boots and shorts on, and first thing I thought is the Briscoes, which is a tag team on the Independents, and they're really good. But yeah, you're right though. They just kind of have like that. Okay, I've got shorts and shorts and boots on. That's it.
Yeah. What was I think he's a classic example. I remember turning it on, and what's the guy? He he was the WWE champion. I don't know if he was a Universal champion or whatnot, but Kevin.
Kevin Owens.
Man. Kevin Owens. Mm-hmm. The guy, I can't stand the guy. I turned it on one day. I kind of heard of him. I turned it on one time not too long ago. I saw it. I was like, that guy looked the people that I used to wrestle for. He used to look like some of the guys in the audience. He's got the T-shirt on with the arms cut off. Looks like Larry the Cable Guy or something. I just like, he looks so plain. He looks like a guy that could just come off the street. And yeah, I'm sure he's a great worker. And I'm sure he deserves, where he's at in his career. I'm not trashing him much. I'm sure he probably is a nice guy. But, for me, what drew me to the entertainment sport of pro wrestling was guys like Sting, the Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. These guys that you didn't you can just walk in the ring and look and talk and act and work like those guys. I mean, those guys were just over the top personalities that were colorful and that you can really escape with.
Yeah.
You know, that really entertains you. You know, I know MMA is huge, and realism, and you know, it's just a different era now. But you know, anytime you get somebody on here probably talks about old school, you might have people talk about like Dick the Bruiser, and that's when, you know, wrestling was great. And you guys got guys like me that grew up watching, you know, the 80s and 90s wrestling. So we all probably are biased on what motivated us and what we like. But
I definitely agree. I feel like the area in which not necessarily where you grew up in. I mean, it's either the area you grew up with or like the era in which you worked is like the era that you really just like you're stuck with. Because that's when I grew up. I grew up during the Attitude Era, and that was I think I too agree that was probably the greatest, you know, generation of professional wrestling.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, you look at some of the crazy stuff that went on during that time period that would not even make it like Vince McMahon wouldn't even blink twice about trying to put that on, like, you know, on actual TV, you know, all that Degeneration X stuff. I mean, like, seriously.
Yeah.
I just think about that and I'm just like, good God, they would never put that on TV nowadays. Like,
no. But, you know, whenever if I feel like I'm in a wrestling mood, that's what I want to go and turn on. I'll turn on like some old 80s, like, you know, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Macho Man stuff, you know, WrestleMania 3, or some old Saturday Night Live, you know, the Saturday Night Wrestling stuff, and, you know, the Attitude Era. That's what I watch. I don't tend to think about the current state, you know, the current wrestlers. I'm like, CM Punk. He was the huge CM Punk fan. When I think that's probably when I really just stopped really keeping up with WWE, is when CM Punk pretty much left. For me, he caught my attention. I loved his style, his look. You know, which is funny is because when he first came out, you know, he looked like a punk. I guess he looked like a kid off the street that just jumped in the ring. You know, they had that backyard wrestling. You know, but that guy, you know, worked his tail off to get where he was at, and you know, I just thought CM Punk was like one of the hugest talents. And so once he left, I kind of thought, okay, there's no one else out there that really I don't really care about. It doesn't interest me anymore, you know. So then I find myself just going back up some old stuff.
I gotcha. Well, yeah, I mean, I like, you know, I like. So let me preface this for the people who are listening. I love wrestling. I watch modern wrestling, but I definitely agree. I feel like modern wrestling is lacking so much, and I like CM Punk, but one of the people I do like that's still, you know, I feel like they have a good character is AJ Styles too. I feel like, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. He's one of those few to me too that's like, you know, hey, I don't need to, you know, he doesn't have to have this overtly like extreme personality, you know, but he has like enough to keep that motivation, keep that ego, keep people enticed. But
yeah, I can see that. I've watched a little bit of his stuff. You know, and going back what you said, what we were talking about, you know, back in the 90s, I think the reason why it was so good is because of the Monday Night Wars that were going on, if you remember, right? So they, you know, both the WCW and the WWE had to, like, be on top of their game because the competition was so fierce. They were trying to top, you know, every week they were trying to top each other. And that's what made wrestling just so good. Now, you know, the WWE is the king. They don't have anybody to compete with.
I mean,
there's nothing pushing them. I feel if there was like another organization that would come up similar to a WCW, I don't know if it'd be good or not, but that would give them a run. That would, you know, cause them to be up their game. That might be interesting, but yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, like, I feel like the next closest company to the WWE would be like Ring of Honor or maybe TNA. But even then, it's like
TNA, yeah.
right. You got WWE, who's number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you got TNA that's like 5, and Ring of Honor that's like 6. But so but we've talked a lot about modern wrestling, how it's lacking, what it needs more cowbell, if you will. No, but
yeah, and that's just my opinion. Some people think, they're listening to this, they might think that guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about, which is cool too. You're like, oh, I love wrestling. I love the state of wrestling right now. It's the best it's ever been. What's this guy talking about? But
right. Well, there's always that one guy, but no.
Yeah.
Right. There's always that one guy. No. So I guess kind of to flip this on to another track, we talked a lot about, modern wrestling, your career, and we talked a little bit about where you're at now. But something I want to start doing, because I've talked to some people about this, like what their personal hobbies are. But I'm curious, what is what's your what is your music taste? I feel like you probably like Freebird.
Yeah.
I knew I had one.
You were going to try to come up with something original. Of course, I've heard that one.
Oh.
I've actually people come up to me and they'll start singing the lyric. I'm like, ha, yeah, that's a good one.
Dang.
And Free Falling. Tom Petty's Free Falling. I'm free. Yeah, so we actually played that at our wedding. We had to, so. Music. Oh, man, I'm such a huge music lover. You might think I'm stuck in the 90s, but, man, that 90s grunge alternative is probably one of my top favorite. I love bands like Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Nirvana, Soundgarden. It's funny, my daughter, she's 13. I bought her first guitar this last year. She's really getting into music. And we were just texting about an hour ago. Hey, Dad, could you send me some good bands, like some old school stuff? I'm like, well, how old school do you want to go? Do you want 70s, 80s? She's like, just give me some good bands to listen to that will be good. And so I start rattling off, all those bands I just mentioned. She goes, okay, what about the 80s? I'm like, okay, yeah, Motley Crue, Van Halen, Metallica, and then she's like, okay, what about the 70s? I'm like, okay, Led Zeppelin, The Doors, Santana. So I'm a huge rocker. I love just good, hard rock music. I'll switch it up every once in a while and, listen to a little bit of R&B and rap here and there. Snoop Dogg he's pretty freaking cool. I just like hearing that guy talk. He's got the coolest voice. You don't even have to rap. I could just listen to an interview and just listen to him talk. I'm like, he's so freaking cool. But so I've just a couple of his songs I kind of dig. I'm even, you're probably going to think I'm really weird, but I even like Michael Jackson. I could be in my car, and if I hear Michael Jackson, I'm hooked. I got to listen to the song. I always thought Michael Jackson was such a great singer and entertainer. He was such an interesting person. Weird, but
who isn't a little weird though, right?
I mean, eclectic. I could even, bands like U2, huge. They're probably if I had to pick like a top favorite. If they said you were on a desert island, you can only have the library of one rock band, what would it be? I would say U2. They're probably like my top favorite. And I love The Police and Sting. Love Led Zeppelin. So, a lot of rock.
Absolutely. When you started mentioning some of those 90s bands, I was like, yes. Obviously, I like me some 70s and 80s, but I don't know, man. There's nothing like the grunge and alternative of the 90s. Smashing Pumpkins. Obviously, they're a little late in the 90s. Smashing Pumpkins, Panic at the Disco. They were like late 90s, early 2000s. I don't know. I got a still place
Incubus. I'm a huge Incubus fan. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's just amazing. Sublime, that was another one.
Oh yeah.
They're a little
great stuff. Man.
They're not necessarily rock. They're a little more mellow, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a lot of people I talk to, actually, it's funny. They don't necessarily listen to music, and I'm like, how do you not listen to music?
Oh man.
Like none at all.
I'm telling you what, music is. It's like I think Bono said this. He said something about it. It just speaks to your soul. It's the language of your soul. Music for me is, I listen to music every day, whether it's in my car, at the gym, at work, even at home. My wife, she's a big music fan too, so we have Alexa. Oh, she's getting ready to come on. No, the light came on. Oh, see? Okay, Alexa off. Okay, sorry about that. But we have Alexa, we have satellite speaker, and so we're always playing music. And we love going to concerts. We went and saw Def Leppard last year, and Kid Rock. It's just fun stuff to listen to rock out to. Music is a huge part of my life. I love it.
No, absolutely. And rightfully so. I feel like wrestling and music go hand in hand because there's a lot of music in wrestling.
Well,
People
you
don't
got
realize that.
what? The Rocketman Connection. Do you remember that? Come on, we're from the 80s.
Look, hey, believe it or not, I was born in like 95. So I was actually like, I'm a 90s baby. Believe it or not. A lot of people don't believe that.
That's hilarious. I could be your dad. I was born in 74. So technically, if I was bad, I could have been 19 years old, maybe. Or 20. No, see, 95, I was 21. Good Lord.
See, yeah, I'm pretty sure my dad was born in like 74. I think 74, 75.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Okay. Man. Okay, I'm hanging the phone up now. You're done. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, gosh. Well, so we've talked a lot about so much stuff. So I think the last thing we should do is we should ask you about your favorite movies. Your favorite movie, Free Willy.
Oh, no, I have not heard that one.
Yes, okay.
So you got the original. You did get it in there. That is hilarious. Michael Jackson did the soundtrack, didn't he?
Did he? I went to Google that now.
No, sorry. You Are Not Alone. I think wasn't that a Free Willy song? Yeah.
I think.
Anyway,
it's been years since I've seen Free Willy.
Yeah, we'll have to look that up. I think Michael Jackson sang on Free Willy. Anyway, that's a good one. I have not heard that one, so you got me there. That's good. Favorite, everybody who knows me knows I'm a huge Star Wars fanatic. So Star Wars is probably my all-time favorite series of movies. And even the new ones, I love the new ones. Well, except for The Last Jedi. Some parts of it where it was good. Some parts I'm like, like Hulk Hogan, Luke Skywalker was a huge hero of mine. So I didn't know if I liked the way they portrayed Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. Hopefully that's not a spoiler if anybody hasn't seen it. But, but yeah, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. My wife even let me in our new house. At least I have the bathroom. I have my own. It's the guest bathroom upstairs. She's allowed me to decorate, Star Wars themed bathroom, right? So I got like a Star Wars shower curtain, an R2-D2 trash can. I even had a Stormtrooper sticker on the top of my toilet. How about that? So I, 44-year-old virgin here. No, I'm just kidding. But I am a huge Star Wars nerd. I love it. See, that's another escape for me.
Star Wars is amazing. I love Star Wars. I was actually going to make the joke. I don't know if it's appropriate. You said 44-year-old virgin. I said, obviously, that's not true. You have a daughter. But
well, she was adopted. No, I'm kidding.
Hopefully she's not listening. Okay.
Yeah, no, she would laugh probably. My daughter, her name's Allison. Call her Allie Cat. She is such a cool kid. She, like I said, she's really into music. She's getting into the guitar, and she loves Star Wars. She named her dog Ray, like Star Wars.
Awesome.
So, her dad influenced her a little bit. She's 13 years old, and she's a vegetarian. She's doing yoga, playing the guitar. She's such an interesting kid. So I'm super proud of her, and she is super fun. So she would probably laugh at that.
See, that's how my parents were. They scarred me quite. No kidding. I just laugh at anything now. No kidding. Also, quick callback. I looked it up, and yes, Michael Jackson made the song "Will You Be There" and "Free Willy." So
that's it. Will you be there? That's it. You got it.
It was like one of the first tracks, one of the last tracks. And
yeah.
Yeah. So you were right on point with that. I didn't know that was him. Weirdly enough, well,
us old guys from the 70s, our memories, we still have it a little bit,
Right. Well, so I feel like we've been a little all over the place. We talked a lot about a lot. So I want to open up this time now to you. You gave a little bit of a plug earlier, but I want you to get all your plugs in for your business, your new product, and if you have any social medias, people that can follow you at, if there's a way to keep up with your crazy life and free will.
That's funny. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, if you go to Instagram, our company is called Bonda Blends. That's BANDHA, and then Blends, BLENDS, Bonda Blends. We're on Instagram. We also are on Facebook, where you can reach me at Jason Free on Facebook. And every once in a while, I will throw up some wrestling photos, some old school stuff. I'll, put up some pictures, and it's funny to see the comments, or somebody will tag me in something that I was in, like a wrestling poster or something like that, and it just cracks me up. And so, yeah, Jason Free on Facebook, also Bonda Blends on Instagram and Facebook, and we're building the website now, bondablends.com, and we're starting off with a yoga pre-workout supplement that, even though you may not take yoga, it's a great uplifting experience. It's a drink that focuses on energy, focus, mood, and mobility. Who wouldn't need all those, right?
Right.
So super excited about that business venture. Hope it grows. And I really appreciate you having me on your podcast. This has been a blast. It's been so much fun. And, if you want me to ever come back on and talk about Free Willy or Michael Jackson or the 70s or 90s grunge music, you let me know, man. I'll come back on.
We'll have to get you back on, because I'll be sitting in my bed at night and I'll come up with another pun on your name, and I'll have to throw it at you. But no, for real though, thank you. But thank you for coming on here. I mean, very, very rarely do I talk to someone and I actually genuinely laugh. So it was a lot of fun getting to talk to you today.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
And also everybody who's listening, go follow his social medias. Help a brother out. Support it. I know I'm going to have to go get some of this supplement, because your boy needs some energy. But
That's right. That's right. It's all natural energy, man. You're going to love it.
Hey, nothing wrong with all natural. That's how it should be, right? Well, hey.
That's right.
Thank you again. We'll have to definitely have you back on here, because it was a lot of fun. But
you got it. Anytime.
Like I said, guys, I know I keep saying it, but support them. Support for all old, not necessarily old wrestlers. I don't want to feel too old, but support all of our guests, and of course support independent wrestling. But thanks again.
Absolutely.
Stay safe out there, man. I hope everything's going well with you, and
you too.
I think that'll do it.
You got it. Hey, have a great one, and thanks again for having me on.
You've heard him here on the Dave Dynasty Show as a guest and as host of the monthly Graham's Gallery episodes. And now you can hear his stories. You can own a copy of Confessions of a Big-Time Wrestler, the audio book from Dr. Jerry Graham Jr., former multi-tag team champion in WWA and owner of Bruiser Bedlam. You can hear all of his encounters with the various wrestlers, places, and promotions he's worked as he tells about his colorful, long, and illustrious career. You can have your own copy for only $25, and that includes shipping and handling. It's very simple. Go on Facebook, look up Jerry Jaffe, Jaffe, send him a private message, and make arrangements to purchase a copy of Confessions of a Big-Time Wrestler now. You will not regret this purchase. And welcome back to the Dave Dynasty Show. This, once again, is Dave Dynasty. Very, very special thank you to Phoenix for coming on for that Whatever Happened To segment. A good friend of mine, friend of the show. Good to hear from him, talking about what he's up to lately. A very, very special thank you to Bobby Fulton for coming on and talking again. A final match of Mr. Fulton's career on Saturday, May 26th. It is for World Classic Professional Big Time Wrestling. That's Saturday, May 26th in Circleville, Ohio. Are you ready to hear this lineup? These are the guys. Now, this show, there's going to be a Jim Cornette experience recording. There's going to be a wrestling show. There's going to be a fan fest during the day. These are the guys that are appearing in some capacity on those events throughout the day. Get a load of this lineup. Of course, Jim Cornette, Bobby Eaton, Kevin Sullivan, Fred Curry, Ronnie Garvin, Bill Dundee, Tommy Rich, Tracy Smothers, Shane Douglas, Barbarian, Demolition Axe, and much, much more. Folks, where are you going to see all of those legends, all of that talent in one place, in one day, along with celebrating the career of Bobby Fulton, wishing him well as he heads into retirement. You can check them out. You can buy tickets and passes for all the events, various packages for the Fan Fest, et cetera, autograph passes. Go to tinyurl.com/Fulton Show for ticket information. Ike and I will be there. We've already bought our tickets. Saturday, May 26th, Circleville, Ohio. If you're there and you see us, come say hi. We'll take a selfie. We'll take a little video to post up on the page. Let's have a good time and celebrate and enjoy professional wrestling, right? That's what we want to do. Enjoy professional wrestling because it's fun. Yeah. Next week, finally, we are returning with another episode of Graham's Gallery with Dr. Jerry Graham Jr. We're going to talk about the great Wojo. It's been a while since we sat down with a good doctor, but it is done. It is recorded. It will be out next week. I'm so excited for that episode. Don't miss that. Make sure, however you listen to us, whether it be on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, or whatever podcast platform it is, make sure you subscribe to us. Make sure you share us, like us, and if you're on any of those, particularly on iTunes, please rate and review us. It helps us out, and we greatly, greatly appreciate it. We appreciate your support. Stay active on our social media. You can find all of those links, as well as links to the podcast, links to our merchandise, our Amazon.com and HighSpots.com affiliates. All those links are available at DaveDynasty.com. If you would like to make a financial contribution to the show, it's what keeps us free and lets us do what we do for you with no charge whatsoever. You can go to patreon.com/TheDaveDynasty and make an ongoing monthly donation to the show, or you can go to paypal.me/TheDaveDynasty to make a one-time contribution. We appreciate whatever you can give. It helps keep everything, helps keep everything free, helps us replace, upgrade our equipment, our software, etc., etc. Thank you for that support. Thank you for all you do. You guys are great. You guys are why we do this show. And without you guys, the Midwest Express would not roll along. So keep doing what you're doing. And until next week, when we return with Graham's Gallery, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.